The calm, turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea now play host to the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest and most technologically advanced aircraft carrier ever constructed. Towering above the waves, this colossal vessel is a marvel of modern engineering, representing the pinnacle of American naval power. This is no routine exercise. Its sudden arrival marks a dramatic and unmistakable surge in American military presence near the shores of Venezuela, a region already fraught with tension and uncertainty. The ship, essentially a floating city of steel and technology, instantly became the focus of global attention, drawing the eyes of journalists, analysts, and governments from around the world. Its imposing presence sends a powerful and unmistakable message across Latin America, raising urgent questions about U.S. intentions and the future of regional stability. Officially, the mission is to combat illegal activities such as drug trafficking and piracy, but the sheer scale and sophistication of the deployment suggest there may be deeper, more strategic motives at play. The carrier is capable of launching dozens of advanced fighter jets at a moment's notice and is escorted by a formidable fleet of support ships, symbolizing not just military might, but America's global reach and readiness to act. This bold move comes as U.S.-Venezuela relations hit new lows, with many observers interpreting the deployment as a direct and unmistakable warning to Caracas and its allies. The warship is both a formidable military asset and a tool of psychological intimidation, escalating the long-running standoff and raising the stakes for all involved. The region's security landscape has shifted overnight, forcing every nation in the Caribbean and beyond to reconsider their positions and the risk of a wider conflict erupting. For the United States, it's a bold show of resolve and commitment. For Venezuela, a looming and immediate threat. For neighboring countries, a source of deep anxiety and concern. The world now watches these tense waters with bated breath, uncertain what the next move will be, as the balance of power in the Caribbean hangs in the balance. Caracas responded to the arrival of the American warship with swift and vocal outrage, as news spread rapidly through the capital and across the nation. President Nicolas Maduro quickly condemned the deployment, accusing the United States of deliberately seeking conflict and directly threatening Venezuela's sovereignty and independence. He dismissed the U.S. anti-drug mission as nothing more than a thinly veiled cover for military intervention, warning the international community of the escalating danger and urging global vigilance. For Venezuela, the carrier's presence is seen as outright aggression, a move that only deepens the already profound mistrust and animosity between the two nations. In response, Maduro's government is actively rallying both domestic and international support, reaching out to allies and refusing to be intimidated by foreign pressure. The Venezuelan military is now on high alert, rapidly moving troops and preparing air defenses along the vulnerable coastline, determined to protect national territory. Venezuela frames itself as a small but resolute nation, bravely resisting what it sees as a superpower's interference and defending its right to self-determination. These defensive moves send a clear and unmistakable message. Any U.S. action will be met with determined resistance from Venezuelan forces. This heightened military posture increases the risk of miscalculation, making the standoff even more volatile and unpredictable for both sides. As tensions mount, the entire region braces for the uncertain consequences of this escalating confrontation, with the world watching closely. The U.S. claims the USS Gerald R. Ford is strategically positioned in the Caribbean to lead a significant crackdown on the rampant drug trafficking in the region. Officials assert that the primary goal is to disrupt the well-established cocaine routes from Latin America to the U.S., framing this deployment as a crucial law enforcement mission. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other key figures insist that Venezuela is a major drug hub, justifying this formidable show of force. The administration argues that Venezuela's government actively enables the drug trade, leaving the U.S. with no choice but to take decisive action. By linking this mission to the broader war on drugs, Washington seeks to garner both public and international support for its actions. The narrative emphasizes a focus on fighting crime, not regime change, to reassure both allies and the public. The U.S. hopes to rally regional cooperation against powerful drug cartels that threaten stability. A more secure Caribbean, free from the grip of criminal networks, is the stated goal of this mission. Still, skepticism lingers about whether this is the real reason for such a massive military deployment, with some questioning the true motives behind it. Many doubt Washington's official explanation. Experts note that aircraft carriers are ill-suited for chasing drug smugglers. Smaller patrol boats do that job. The scale of the deployment suggests a different agenda, intimidating Maduro's government. The carrier's presence is seen as psychological warfare, pressuring Venezuela's leadership to change course or face internal dissent. U.S. hostility toward Maduro, whom it doesn't recognize as president, fuels suspicion. Critics argue the war on drugs is a convenient excuse for military pressure and possible regime change. Some analysts warn the carrier group could enforce a blockade or launch airstrikes if tensions rise. The uncertainty is deliberate, keeping Venezuela off balance. Every U.S. move is now scrutinized, adding to regional tension. The true motive remains a subject of heated debate. The U.S. warship's arrival has alarmed Latin American nations, especially Venezuela's neighbors. Colombia and Brazil fear the standoff could spark a wider conflict, destabilizing the region. Leaders are watching anxiously, hoping to avoid violence that could trigger a refugee crisis and economic turmoil. Regional organizations urge diplomacy, but divisions make a unified response difficult. Publicly, leaders call for calm. Privately, they prepare for the worst. The focus on Venezuela threatens to overshadow other pressing regional issues. Prolonged tension could harm trade and cooperation across Latin America. The world urges restraint before the crisis spirals out of control. The U.S. openly accuses Maduro's government of running a narco-state, using these claims to justify its aggressive stance. By framing Maduro as a criminal, Washington seeks global support for pressure on his regime. The U.S. alleges Venezuela shelters drug cartels and profits from trafficking, explaining the need for military action. Venezuela rejects these charges as propaganda, claiming the U.S. wants to seize its vast oil reserves. Each side accuses the other of dishonesty, deepening the divide. Venezuela says it's the victim of an economic war and a smear campaign. The U.S. points to intelligence and indictments. Venezuela cites a history of U.S. intervention. The truth remains murky, fueling international debate. This war of words only hardens positions and complicates diplomacy. The standoff grows more bitter with every accusation. The warship's deployment has sparked a legal debate in Washington. Some in Congress question whether the president can take military action without their approval. The Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the power to declare war. Critics warn that bypassing Congress risks an unauthorized conflict. The War Powers Resolution was designed to prevent such unilateral action. The Venezuela crisis tests the limits of presidential authority. Some lawmakers urge diplomacy and sanctions over military force. This internal split adds uncertainty to U.S. strategy and confuses allies. Venezuela may see this division as weakness, while others worry about U.S. intentions. The outcome of this debate could shape the region's future. Most experts doubt a U.S. invasion of Venezuela is imminent. The military buildup is seen as intimidation, not preparation for war. The real risk is escalation. One mistake could trigger a wider conflict. With both sides on high alert, the chance of miscalculation is dangerously high. Even a minor incident could spiral out of control. International leaders urge restraint, fearing an accidental war. The standoff is a high-stakes game, with neither side wanting to back down. The danger, a conflict that nobody wants, but nobody can stop. The path forward demands urgent de-escalation. Direct or indirect talks between the U.S. and Venezuela are essential to prevent disaster. Diplomats and mediators can help create space for dialogue and reduce military threats. Confidence-building steps, like moving the carrier farther from Venezuela and reducing hostile rhetoric, could ease tensions. Regional countries must pressure both sides to choose diplomacy over confrontation. A unified call for peace from Latin America would be hard to ignore. Long-term solutions require addressing Venezuela's internal crisis and mutual mistrust. For now, stepping back from the brink is the priority. De-escalation isn't weakness. It's the only way to avoid catastrophe for the entire region.